So it looks like Hawaii might allow you to build multiple ADUs on your property. We're gonna jump into it and understand the pros and cons of it, understand where it is now, where it potentially could go, and how this could affect the real estate market in general. Stick around to get all the details. See you on the other side. What's going on, guys? Patrick here. Just wanted to make a video to quickly go over this new bill that has just passed the Senate floor, SB 3202, which in a summary basically could potentially allow homeowners to build not just one ADU, but multiple ADUs. Now, if you don't know an ADU, probably all this stuff is going right over your head. So let's simplify it, break it down, understand the pros and cons. But before we do, let me quickly introduce myself if this is your first time here. My name is Patrick Longley. I'm a licensed real estate agent out here in Hawaii and have been for nearly a decade, helping buyers, sellers, and investors with their real estate needs. If you have any questions or simply want to talk real estate, feel free to reach out to me. I got my contact information right here, or you can directly DM me on any of my social media platforms. Now, with that being said, let's get a better understanding of this mystical bill, SB 3202. Now, before we understand what the bill is, we need to understand what the rules in place are now and why these even came into place. So the rules as of now is that depending on your zoning, depending on the lot size, whether the sewer line will even suffice, you potentially could build an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, which basically allows you to have an extra unit that you could potentially rent out that has a full legal kitchen, that's gonna have a sink, stove, and a fridge that you could rent out to somebody, which can be super beneficial not only for the rental market and people that need to rent a place, but also for the homeowner who wants to have supplemental income to help them with that mortgage payment. Now, in the past, this has always been somewhat of a challenge, not only because of the DPP, that's the Department of Planning and Permitting, and the slow, painful process to actually get that. I've heard stories of it taking 1 to 2 years just to get that permit, but also just hoping that you can actually get the permit, because sometimes if the sewer line is maxed out, they won't allow you to add additional fixtures and additional unit. So there's been lots of rules and regulations on whether you can even build an ADU, whether the sewer line will hold it for that neighborhood, and whether your property is the right size to actually even get an ADU. And they generally only allowed one, depending on the size of the lot. Now, this concept of allowing multiple ADUs on one property has been pushed because of the Maui fires. Now, there's been basically an emergency proclamation. There's been lots of different changes happening. One of them, which I'm gonna make a video on soon, is banning short-term rentals. They're definitely pushing it through in Maui, and it's probably going to overflow to the other islands, but that's for another video. But another emergency proclamation that they've basically pushed through is this bill, SB 3202, which is going to potentially allow residential homeowners to build not just one ADU, but multiple ADUs, up to 2 ADUs on one property, essentially turning your property into a triplex and allowing this to be done in residential areas. So in those cute little neighborhoods, you might have your grandma's little house, and then you might own a property and you could potentially turn it into a triplex. Now, there's lots of pros and cons to this. We will get into that, but that is the bill in a nutshell. Okay, now let's discuss the pros, because it sounds like this is a great thing. This is going to create lots of opportunities for buyers, sellers, and also renters, but let's explain what the pros are and then we'll get into the cons. Pro number one is that it's going to allow more rentals to come to the market. If I own a home and now I can build 2 additional structures with 2 legal kitchens, I've now essentially created 2 more rentals in the market for someone who needs a home. So that is definitely a huge pro. Pro number 2 is that it will assist homeowners with these high mortgage rates or high monthly payments to live here in Hawaii and supplement that with an extra unit that they can rent out. And pro number 3 is it will create extra space that if you have your mother-in-law that wants to live with you, but you don't want to live with them, but you want to keep them close, you can have an extra unit and put that together reasonably easy in theory and have multiple units, maybe one for a rental, one for your mother-in-law, and one that you live in. Pro number 4, it provides you the opportunity to increase the value of your property by adding an ADU, as that is what everybody wants. Everybody wants an extra unit to help with that supplemental income. Okay, those are the pros. Now let's go over the con. Con number 1, this could potentially ruin small and cute neighborhoods. You can imagine that if you moved into a neighborhood and you loved it because it was quiet, it was quaint, there was plenty of street parking, you didn't have a lot of people running around, that could be potentially ruined by, hey, my next door neighbor just bought the house and he just added 2 extra units. So now I've got 2 to 4 extra cars in the street, or 2 to 4 extra cars coming and going every single day. And additionally, I now have this monster home just next to me when it was this quaint, cute little neighborhood with quaint, cute little homes. Con number 2, piggybacking on what I just said before, this could create a lot more congestion, not only with traffic, but also with parking and street parking in residential areas. Con number 3, which kind of goes with pro number 1, depending on whether you're a buyer or seller, is that it could basically push prices up. If you have a single family home that's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but now you can put a legal ADU on it and now it's a 4-bedroom, 4-bath, this could basically push prices up even further. Con number 4 is that if the city doesn't keep their stuff together, they might find themselves where if everybody's starting to build these ADUs and adding more fixtures and more toilets, this could clog or ruin sewer systems in those neighborhoods. The next con is it might invite more out-of-state or out-of-country investors. And if you're an out-of-state or out-of-country investor, you're like, sweet, let's do this. But for the local community who is just trying to afford to buy a home, this is further going to push prices up because you're inviting basically this concept of, hey, maybe I can actually cash flow this property because I can build 3 different units on one residential property. That could push prices up, pushing out the local community from being able to even buy a property, inviting basically just putting an apple in front of out-of-state and out-of-country investors. And the last con is if the DPP isn't already slow enough, this new bill, if everybody wants to add an extra ADU, which everybody will want to do it because they want to help with supplementing the income, it will definitely further backlog how long it already takes to get a permit for, even if it's just a deck, let alone an ADU with new fixtures. It has to also make sure that there's plenty of sewer line to facilitate that ADU. I think it's just gonna bog down getting a permit for anything, and it's gonna really slow down the process. Okay, so my opinion from somebody who's a homeowner, somebody who helps lots of buyers, sellers, and investors, and somebody who actually lives here, I think this is a bill that's going in the right direction. We definitely have an issue with housing shortages, whether that's for the local community to buy or to rent. I think this definitely helps the renters. I don't think this helps the buyers. I think this is going to push prices up further, which can be great if you own a property, but if you don't, this is just pushing you further away from that dream of owning a home, because I think prices will inevitably go up with this new bill. I think if there isn't more fine print with rules and regulations of who's allowed to build these ADUs in certain neighborhoods, it could potentially ruin very quiet, quaint neighborhoods by having all these homes that essentially turn from a single family home essentially into a triplex, which can, quickly ruin a neighborhood. And like I said, I think that they should basically put some rules and regulations on where these ADUs can be built, how many can be built in certain zones, certain areas, and maybe push and give some tax breaks for people who are building ADUs in more urban areas. They can help facilitate higher traffic, higher street parking, and maybe closer to, let's say, the rail. Another suggestion I would have is that hopefully that they would put a little bit of restrictions on who can build these ADUs, and maybe give some tax breaks or make it easier for people who are in more urban areas and maybe not quite quaint residential areas, so that it doesn't get taken advantage of and ruin some of the beautiful neighborhoods that we have out here, but also help facilitate the shortage we have in rentals by maybe suggesting or making it easier for people in more urban areas to have these ADUs easily. And my last suggestion is maybe if we find some land that's not being used properly, or maybe ag land that can be repurposed, or maybe government land that can be utilized to actually build homes, not just ADUs, but actually build homes, because this might solve the rental issue we have, but we still have a massive shortage when it comes to homes for anybody who wants to buy a home out here, more specifically the local community. And I think that needs to be more the focus. I think this is a band-aid solution, similar to shutting down Airbnbs. Allowing ADUs definitely will help for the rental market, but really where we have an issue is for the local community looking to buy a home and not getting pushed off this island. So I think it's in the right direction, but I think it's kind of a give and take situation. So anyways, guys, that is the bill. That is the pros, those are the cons, and that is my opinion. If you have any comments or opinions, I would love to hear them. Put them in the comment section down below. What do you think of this bill? Do you think it's gonna help, or is it going to hurt buyers when it comes to home prices and them actually being able to buy a home? Well, that pretty much wraps it up. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I've got my contact information right here, or you can directly DM me on any of my social media platforms. And if you got any value out of this video, do me a huge favor. I do put a lot of time and research into these, so I'd really appreciate if you could smash that like button, as well as click the subscribe and notification bell so you get notified whenever I drop videos just like this. Again, guys, I'm Patrick with PatrickLongleyRealty.com, powered by eXp Realty. Hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Aloha.